Djurs Sommerland is considered one of the best theme parks in Denmark. The park features beautiful scenery, great theming, and rides for the entire family, including 7 roller coasters, which hopefully will become more over time. I got to revisit the park for the first time in 5 years in a little over a month ago, where I got 4 new credits and rewrote 3 other coasters. This gave me the opportunity to get a fresh feel of them, so I could decide which I liked and which I thought could use some improvement. So here is my personal ranking of the 7 roller coasters at the biggest Sommerland in the north. At number 7 is the smallest coaster in the park. This is Jungle Rally, a very small Sierra Force Zero model, which opened just last year in 2018. I didn't just rank this as my least favorite coaster because of its size. This kiddie coaster isn't only boring, but also uncomfortable and unsmooth, which is really unfortunate considering Chameleon at Tivoli Gardens is actually a rather enjoyable and fun ride, and it's almost an exact clone, apart from the track and train length. So Jungle Rally gets a thumbs down in my book, and I really do think they could have done better. Number 6 is another Sierra Force coaster, this one being a Force 2 model. This was actually my first ride of the day at the park, and it was a really nice start. While it doesn't really do anything since it's also a kiddie coaster, it's just a really nice and comfortable ride experience that I found rather enjoyable. Plus the theming around it was pretty nice, including one of the best ride operators I saw that day. I would gladly ride this again during my next visit, and I find it to be an almost perfect ride for the small children. At number 5 is a Gerstlauer bobsled known as Thor's Hammer. This used to be my 3rd favorite coaster at the park until my revisit. Now don't get me wrong, this is a very good family ride and it actually brings on some good forces. For starters, its switchbacks are the best I've ever experienced, and they give really good laterals. Plus its helixes give good grey out worthy forces, and it even has a bit of airtime. I just found the park's top 4 to be more enjoyable. Also, Thor's Hammer unfortunately happened to have a downside I was not expecting. The ride is a bit rough, but not in an uncomfortable way. In fact, it almost adds to the ride. My problem with it is that it somehow made me a bit nauseous. I usually get nauseous by spinning flat rides, so I really can't explain it, but that's just what happened. But it is still a very good coaster and I still really do like it and recommend it, and I overall really enjoyed my rides on it. At number 4 is a controversial choice, the park's Intamin suspended family coaster Dragekongen. This coaster is very much a hit or miss for most. A lot of people hate it and a lot of people love it. I'm one of the people that are kinda in the middle but do overall like it. While it's a very good looking coaster and it does look promising, it unfortunately suffers from 2 major downs. Most of the ride is completely forceless and it's also rough, which an Intamin from 2017 really shouldn't be. I only thought one part of the ride actually had some force, which is the first helix, which actually gave me a weaker gray out on one of my eyes. The reason I still do like this coaster, however, is simply because I like the movements that it does, which includes a bunch of turns and some funky transitions. Also, as a bonus, something that really isn't a popular opinion is that I actually kinda liked its roughness. I know it sounds very weird and everyone disagrees with me, but I just thought it added to the experience in a good way, even though I am well aware it's a bad thing that it's there. Overall, I did find Dragekongen to be a fun ride that I quite enjoyed. It's far from a perfect ride, but I'd be happy to ride it again, and there's a reason I rode it 3 times during my visit. First of the top 3 is the park's Mack Rides water coaster Skatteøen. This used to be below Thor's Hammer on my list until I rewrote it this year, and it happily surprised me. It was honestly a lot better than I remember. Before I rewrote it, the only good thing I could remember was some decent floater airtime in the back on the ride's straight drop. However, that drop turned out to give much better airtime than I remembered, and even in the middle rows. Also, the bunny hill right after managed to give perfectly consistent floater airtime, and the giant curved drop after the first mid-course gave really good smooth laterals. Plus the ride has a fun splashdown and it actually features some really nice theming. To be honest, I remember this ride to just be alright, but it actually turned out to be pretty darn good, and I have happily moved it up my rankings. The second best coaster in the park for me is Juvelen, an Intamin family launch coaster featuring ATV-style cars on long trains, giving the sensation of rushing through the Mexican jungle like a true adventurer. First off, this ride has some really good theming and features a great pre-show, which really manages to build anticipation for the coming ride, which is a lateral-filled ride full of pure fun. The coaster has several fast transitions and underbanked moments, which all manage to push you to the side of the vehicle, while it also packs in 2 drive tire driven launches. The first launch is very gradual and doesn't have the greatest acceleration, however because of the way you're sitting, it's actually still a decently fun launch that made me want to put my fist up in front of me. The second launch on the other hand is more powerful and my favorite part of the ride. This is where it hits its top speed of 53 miles an hour, and even though it isn't an aggressive launch in any way, it still manages to feel like the train has a rocket installed. The only downside I can think of on this ride is the fact that it has a total of 5 airtime hills, none of which give any airtime whatsoever. Not even any weak floater, it's absolutely nothing. Luckily, the rest of the ride's low to the ground experience more than makes up for it, and I'm actually not really bothered by the hills at all. In fact, I like the experience of this coaster so much, I have it in my top 10 above coasters like a B&M dive machine and an Intamin accelerator. Finally, we have my number 1 coaster at Djurs Sommerland, and this really shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. In fact, saying this is the best coaster in all of Denmark is equal to saying that Steel Vengeance is the best coaster in the world. Piraten and Intamin Mega-Lite is Denmark's tallest roller coaster and an absolute airtime machine. While it's not very big, this coaster is a perfect example of why size does not matter, just like the RMC Raptors. Piraten packs in both great positive forces which make me gray out on all of my rides, as well as aggressive laterals and powerful ejector and floater airtime. The best part of the ride is without doubt the Twisted Trio, which are 3 twisted bunny hills back to back, which both throw you from one side to the other aggressively, but also glue your legs to your restraints, and luckily, Piraten manages to have 5 additional great airtime moments besides this. I couldn't get enough of this ride, and I rode it 9 times on the day I had. While I could have ridden it back in 2014 where I also visited the park, I was unfortunately still scared of thrill rides back then, but I'm happy to make this one of 20 potential new credits of 2019. In fact, Piraten was the new credit this year that I was most excited for, and I was far from disappointed. This ride blew me away, and it currently sits very comfortably in my top 5. That's been it for my top 7 roller coasters at Djurs Sommerland. In case you've ridden them as well, make sure to tell me your ranking in the comments below. Otherwise, it has been Northern Rides, and I hope you all keep on riding.